If you're expecting Arizona Sunshine Remake to feel like a whole new remake, you might be a little let down. In a nutshell, it feels more like a remaster than a full-on remake. The same invisible walls, same general level design, and not much in terms of groundbreaking changes, aside from the inclusion of manual reloading. Now, don't get me wrong, the game is still fun, and there's plenty to enjoy here if you're into VR zombie shooters, especially if you love the original yet don't play it because it feels too dated. Let's be real though, this isn't a VR hype train channel. We dig into games, flaws and all, to figure out if it's worth your time and money, while being aware that most of these games are indie games without massive budgets. That said, let's start with the graphics, which is probably the biggest upgrade you'll notice in this remake. The step up in resolution is clear and the game looks much better at higher settings than the original did. Certain things like zombies in particular have seen massive improvements. Their animations are smoother and their overall design is far more detailed. But while the zombies look great, other parts of the game like the environment and objects don't quite get the same love. Cars and other static objects in general, even with the improved graphics, don't look incredibly different than before. Then there's the noticeable trade-off between graphical improvement and performance. Despite how good things look on high settings, the game doesn't run as smoothly compared to other VR titles on this same setting. Arizona Sunshine Remake, at least on PC, struggles to keep up with graphical settings on high. The footage for this video gets choppy when it comes to hordes, and it was the same for the original game. Inside the headset, it's not this bad, I promise, but there is a noticeable difference. Aside from that though, Arizona still has the same weirdness with bright outdoor scenes. It's almost like they tried to simulate dusty desert air, but it just ends up looking fuzzy, like there's a film over everything. It's not terrible, but it is noticeable and not the kind of visual clarity you'd expect in a remake. Now, things do look up when it comes to the audio in this remake. Overall, the game sticks pretty close to what we had in the original game. Most of the sounds seem unchanged, and that's a good thing. The voice acting is still as believable, comedic, and as entertaining as it was before, which, just like in the original, added a comedic overtone to the entire game.
Good morning there, ugly. Well, alright. I guess I'll do the nice thing here, Fred.
It's nice to see that they didn't mess with the game in this department since it was near perfect in the original game. The voice acting in the DLC is almost as good as in the base game too.
Can you continue the mission?
What? What do you mean, continue the mission? I'm on my own!
While it may not hit the same level of quality, possibly because you play as different people in the DLC, it's still entertaining and keeps the overall experience consistent.
Here I am, risking my life so I can wipe my hometown off the face of the earth. Anything to make my kids sleep easier at night.
As for the sound effects, they all seem to have gone largely unchanged. Gunfire, footsteps, and other noises feel as convincing as before. The audio doesn't stand out as much as the graphical improvements, but the audio was solid in the original and it still gets the job done here. Now, I really wish I could have said the same about the mechanics. To be fair, there are noticeable improvements, one of which, over the original Arizona Sunshine, is the reloading mechanics. This remake includes the manual reloading style we've come to expect from VR games, and it makes the gunplay feel that much more immersive. If you've played the original, you probably remember reloading felt really uninspired, and this is a massive improvement over what that was. And now the bad news. Some of the issues that held back the original game from being god tier are still present in this version. The invisible walls are still everywhere and they can seriously get in the way of immersion. I was really hoping simple actions like grabbing ammo out of a car would feel better than both Arizona Sunshines 1 and 2 because they both had this same awkward collision problem, but sadly it's still here. But at least gunplay itself is still as fun as it was before, if not better. Blasting zombies is satisfying and those head explosions definitely still deliver that feedback of feeling awesome. I also tried the multiplayer, but to be honest, it wasn't a great experience for me. I ran into several bugs, including black screens while navigating the menus while in-game, and flat-out game crashes when attempting to join other players. That part of the experience just wasn't enjoyable, but my experience is on the PCVR version, and it's likely that the standalone version doesn't have these same problems. Let me know in the comments what your remake multiplayer experience has been like if you tried it out. Moving on to movement though, it has seen some minor improvements but remains largely unchanged. At least you can now manually climb ladders instead of automatically teleporting to the top. Awkwardly though, the same can't be said for going down those same ladders. The game forces you to use the old teleport method to go down ladders, which feels like a slap in the face. Moving on though, when it comes to the theme, Arizona Sunshine Remake sticks closely to what worked in the original. The story remains virtually unchanged. The main game still has you in the shoes of the main character, searching for other survivors in a world overrun by zombies, all while desperately needing some social interaction.
Ah, there you guys are. I was starting to get a little lonely. So what's up, dudes? You know the rules though. Don't get too close.
I'm glad this hasn't changed any because it's simple and it works well for this game. Just like before, this is very much a zombie shoot 'em up at its core, with a sprinkle of light resource management mechanics thrown in. Of course, you'll mainly be blasting your way through hordes of the undead and scavenging for ammo and weapons, since the focus of the game is on action rather than deep storytelling. The main campaign is about 3 hours long, which is about in line with what everyone else has been getting in terms of playtime. However, the included DLC adds some additional stories that extend your playtime. These bonus chapters are entertaining in their own right and offer a little extra value for those looking for more content beyond the main game. Another area the remake improves over the original though is in the options. Before we had a cartridge system at the main menu that felt very classic, like something from the days of the Nintendo 64. This time around you have a lot more control over your comfort settings that you can immersively access with your watch when it works. You can even toggle things like the inferior automatic reloading system, adjusting a vignette radius to reduce motion sickness, and even choosing to skip climbing altogether. That last one in itself also feels like a slap in the face since you can't climb down things, but at least the manual weapon reloading system from Arizona Sunshine 2 is in this remake. That said, let's talk about how immersive this remake is overall, after we address the scoreboard. Graphics gets a 4 out of 6. The guns and zombies look and feel much better this time around, but the leap in visual quality doesn't translate well to the rest of the game, and there's also a noticeable performance hit. Audio gets a 5 out of 6 because it's the same engaging audio we've come to love from the original. It worked well then, and fortunately it works now. Mechanics gets a 2 out of 6. Between the same invisible wall collision problem and being able to climb up but not down ladders, the game falls short of general expectations for VR. Theme gets a 5 out of 6 for the same reason audio does. It remains largely unchanged, and that's a good thing in this case. And options gets a 5 out of 6 because there's plenty of options made available to you, with an improvement over the original game's menu design. Arizona Sunshine was that fun zombie blasting game you remember, and the remake, while arguably worthy of being called that, carries over that same level of enjoyment. The hordes are still frustratingly fun to blast, and the story of searching for other survivors will still keep you engaged. That said, this game feels more like a remaster than a full-on remake, with the most notable change feeling like they added the weapon mechanics from Arizona Sunshine 2 to the original game and upped the graphics. It can still be called a remake because it changes something fundamental with the game's core design, which in this case is the reloading mechanics that did not exist in the original game. Regardless, Arizona Sunshine Remake walks away with an overall immersion score of 3.5 out of 6. It's a far cry from the most immersive VR game you'll play, but I think you'll enjoy it regardless. Along with some of my other videos that you should check out after subscribing for more VR gaming content. Until next time though, stay immersed.